Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Malicious Compliance. Story 1. Boss said if they disagree they should just leave. I left instead. First time posting here, not totally sure it applies, but an earlier post reminded me of this situation I was in a few years back, so thought I'd share. I was a 20+ employee for an organization with religious ties, in leadership, and the key point person for a lot of things, and pretty good at what I did. There were parts of the organization's religious group's identity that I didn't personally identify with, but felt as though I was making a difference there, generally enjoyed the work, and knew plenty of other like-minded, read what the org would have called liberal, employees there, so I was content. In my state, this organization's religious ties make them exempt from several laws. Most relevant to this story, they are legally allowed to make hiring decisions based on /considering sexuality/sexual identity. While the organization had many constituents who were a part of the LGBTQ and community, and supported those constituents, they did not openly hire members of the LGBTQ and community. For years, I felt like a part of my reason for being there was to be a support to those members of the LGBTQ and community who were constituents in what was not always a positive environment for them. I had an employee who was an outstanding performer, really, she was my best employee, if I'm being honest. She was a standard setter in every way, an absolute peak performer. I had no plans to leave, but if I had plans to leave, I would have recommended her as a successor immediately. The work she did was important and widespread, it impacted every constituent in the org in one way or another. She was closeted when hired, and through a series of life events, came out after several years working for me. I was actually surprised at the community response. There were some skeptical folks and people who did the common religious praying for you thing, but many people were supportive of her. We lived in that bubble for a couple of years, and then I took a plan to the supervisor of my direct supervisor. She made the salary/title decisions, to promote this employee for her exemplary work. The conversation started off poorly, and ended with, "Do we really want to encourage her to stay here?" And she knew the type of environment she was working in when she took the job. If she disagrees now, she should leave. I knew, in that moment, that boss's boss was inadvertently speaking to me. I don't agree, I should leave. I started the job hunt with one main criteria, found a place that was openly affirming with work that I was eager to learn, and took the job. It's ended up being an incredible fit for me. I love the work, love the people, and, surprise, members of the LGBTQ and community can both work here and be promoted. I also ended up with a 20% pay increase during my first year, which was wild. While my departure certainly didn't ruin anyone's life, everyone was pretty surprised with my departure. I definitely got my share of panicked "How did you complete this task?" or "What was this procedure?" calls, and they haven't been able to fill the role since. Anyway, cheers to finding a workplace that's in alignment with your soul. Edit, I filled in these deets in the Story 2. Take away the on-call program. Okay, pay through the nose. My husband was the on-call person, from 5:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next day on his days off, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and 5:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. Tuesday, Friday. Which he gets $20 a day just to be on call. If he had to punch in to take a call out, it was normal pay. His work started calling him on his work phone to answer quick questions on his days off. It got to the point where the phone was ringing 3 to 8 times a day. I finally said, "This is your day off. Stop answering your phone." He wasn't being paid to do this. It took a bit, but he shut his phone off until his on-call hours. Then they started to call his personal phone. That did it. He told the bosses that unless he was being paid his hourly wage, he would not answer phone calls on his off time and to stop calling his personal phone. They got pissy and decided to stop the on-call program. Now, when there is an emergency, the call-out center has to call through the seniority list to try to find someone to take the job. The problem is that only 4 people know how to fix certain issues because it's an antiquated system that is being phased out. First guy is just biding his time to retirement, so he doesn't take call-outs. My husband is second, and he passes. Number 3 lives 2 hours from the garage, and he's not going to drive that. Number 4 is also biding his time to retire. So, back around again. Everyone passes. Third time, they can force the low Petson to take the job, but they have to pay time and 1/2 plus night differential. Oops, number 4 has had a drink. So, number 3 no answer. They could have just given him $20 a day to be on call, not bothered him during the day, then they would have only had to pay him normal wages. Idiocy. Story 3. Empty everything from my bag, you got it. Standard disclaimer, on mobile, so pardon any typos. Last time I checked, English was my first language. I work in a transportation facility which requires me to go through a security checkpoint that inspects bags and such, and you have to go through a metal detector. They require us to remove any electronics or wires from our bags. Since I'm a technician, I carry a laptop and network cables in my bag plus some small hand tools. I was told I can leave the hand tools in the bag, but the wires and electronic have to be taken out. Fine. So I've been doing this for months, until yesterday. I go through as usual, unpacking my bag of the required items and putting them in the bin and send it through. I send my bag afterwards. X-Ray says nothing, so I start reloading my bag. This is when X-Ray stops talking to her co-worker friends and realizes she has to work. They start going through my bag, pulling out everything I just put back and telling me this is supposed to come out and go in a bin. I did. You weren't paying attention. X-Ray then proceeds to tell me anything metal has to come out, everything has to come out. Fine. Today rolls around and the same person is running X-Ray. So I take all of my usual stuff out of my bag and put it in a bin. Then I start removing everything from my bag. Tissue pack? Check. Quick wipes? Check. Pens? Check. Candy wrapper from 3 days ago? Check. You get the point. Every single item I pulled from my bag. Meanwhile, X-Ray is getting testy and a line is forming behind me. X-Ray tells me I'm holding up the line. Sorry, you said everything. After my bins and empty bag go through the X-Ray and come out, I begin to repack everything while watching the line behind me. A guy is now doing the same thing I just did, pulling everything from his bag. You did tell that guy everything. I don't want to get in trouble. The next guy behind him started doing it as well. As I set my bag on the floor and began to walk away, I turned to X-Ray and said, you did say everything. Have a nice day. And left. I think I might go back through after lunch. Clarification, this is a security checkpoint for employees of this transportation facility. It's a private security company and not any government transportation security, though most of them act like they work for the government. Story 4. Most expensive tip ever. Nearly 15 years ago, I went to work for a company. The intent was for me to complete a project in quality and then move over into program management, but someone quit and I was asked to fill in as a customer quality engineer. This meant that every month, I traveled to customer sites, did the first pass analysis of our defective products, and got yelled at a lot. It sucked. Also worth mentioning, our branch of the company was too small to use the corporate travel, so for every trip I was scouring discount travel sites to find the cheapest flight/hotel/car. I was ridiculously vigorous in seeking best prices. If the shittiest shitbox car was $32/day and the not so shitty car was $34/day, I picked the $32/day car to save the company $2/day. One fine trip, several months in, was spectacularly awful. Not only did I have a truly terrible car, the hotel was all new depths of yuck. My shoes stuck to the carpet in my room and the security flipper thing on the door was plastic. Also, it was in the worst part of town and I worried about my safety to the point that I ended up pulling the little couch over to block the door and sleeping on it. Adding to my misery, I was sick. I had some creeping crud that plugged my sinuses and made me long for death. Normally, I'd have cancelled the trip, but the customer was in an uproar about our continued repeating defects and required someone to be there. I made this trek every month. And once during every trip, I would eat at the local Outback Steakhouse. It was a known quantity, the people who worked there were great, and it helped me to have that connection. On this particular trip, I made my way to the Outback for dinner and I was clearly sick and miserable. And the workers took care of me. They set me next to the fireplace, brought me tea, and had the kitchen make me chicken noodle soup even though it wasn't on the menu. I nearly cried, I was so grateful. My bill for dinner was less than $10, so I charged $20. Yes, more than a 100% tip, but their kindness kept me going. I got home, did my expense report, and turned it in. My director called me into his office and screamed at me about how the corporate policy was 10% tip and it should never exceed 15% and what was wrong with me for paying them so much. Remember, total bill including excessive tip was $20. It broke me. Well, it shattered my loyalty to the company's bottom line. So, I made them give me the corporate travel policy where the tip policy was outlined, and from that moment on, I followed the corporate travel policy exactly. No more shitbox $32/day cars, I'm in midsize or better. No more flying out at 4 a.m. in the center seat, the flights fit my schedule and I sat where I wanted. No more scary hotels in the worst part of town, now I'm staying at the nicest executive hotel allowed by the policy. The cost of my trips were pretty regularly double or triple what they had been, adding up to thousands of dollars a year, but I never disobeyed their allowable tip policy again. The true irony, their corporate tip policy actually had verbiage that said exceptional service could be recognized with an additional gratuity, but basically, don't make a habit of it. Also, the allowable per diem was $50/day and a receipt was only required if over that amount, so the tip that started the whole thing was within per diem, allowable for exceptional service, and the receipt for it had not been necessary. Story 5. I was a Halloween Scrooge, but MC landed me the best costume. So I really am not a group participation type, and I especially hate having to participate, so when my office decided to do a group Halloween costume, I was like, absolutely not. It's required, and we are all going to be milkshakes. We were all supposed to wear a little whipped cream and cherry fascinator and dress as our favorite flavor of milkshake. I hate milkshakes. I hate stupid kitschy costumes. I said, if y'all are forcing me to be part of this, I'm going to have to fix your idea. My wonderful coworker made a Lactaid shirt for me, lol. Nobody coming into the store even understood what the rest of the girls were supposed to be dressed as, but everyone got a laugh at my Lactaid shirt after hearing the explanation. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.